OpenBuildings Designer Update 8 introduced an overhaul of building flyovers. So first, what are flyovers? In general, flyovers display information about any element in a file. However, display of information about building elements is much more comprehensive and specific to the building discipline that the element is associated with. For instance, if I hover over a timber joist, the flyover indicates the catalog type and item, the file, reference file, and level, the family and part, and finally, section name, placement, and rotation. Whereas a door gives catalog type and item, the file, reference file, if there is one, and level, the width and height, the family and part, and render material. So different data can be displayed both by discipline and by catalog type. By the way, did you know that you can change the timing on the flyover or turn it off completely? If you go to AccuSnap Settings, note the settings for pop-up info. These control the flyovers. For instance, I can toggle off pop-up info, and that completely turns off flyovers. I can also control the timing of the flyover by changing the delay. If I change it to 1, the flyover shows up almost immediately. If I change it to 30, I have to hover there for a few seconds before getting the information. I can also set it so that flyovers are not automatic, but only show with a tentative input. I'll change automatic to tentative. Now the flyover only pops up with a tentative input on the mouse. That is, pressing the left and right button simultaneously. Let me reset those back to the defaults. So what is new in Update 8? What is new is that you can now customize the information that shows up in the flyover, both in terms of what information is displayed, the order it is listed, and even the labels. These can be customized for an entire discipline or by a data group catalog type. So let's customize the flyovers for doors. We'll go to the Backstage, Settings, Building, and select Flyover Preferences. This opens the Flyover editor to the delivered settings. Note first that there is a general default setup with various properties and separators defined. These settings will apply to all building elements that are not specifically defined below by either a discipline or a catalog type. They will also be the default settings if a new group is added. Note when I select the default group, several icons activate, allowing me to add a new property or a separator property to this group. There is also a settings icon for setting up the default settings for separators. You can set a count and a character to repeat to create the separator. Each discipline also has a default category. Again, these settings will apply to all building elements within that discipline that are not specifically defined below by a catalog type. They will also be the default settings when a new catalog type group is created. First, we will modify the properties of an existing group and then create a new group. I will expand the door group and select the Add Property icon. The Pick Properties for Flyover dialog opens. On the left are the available properties. On the right are the properties already selected. I will expand Door and select Door Rating as a property. I will expand Identification and select ID, Item ID, and ID Type ID. On the right, I can also remove properties, for instance, Catalog Type. I think I should know it is a door even without the flyover. Also File. I really only need to know if it is in a reference file, otherwise it is in the active file. I think I will even remove family and part, since I want to reduce the amount of information, and I don't find that very useful. Although render material is useful when doing rendering. I am just selecting properties here. Once I select OK and go back to the Flyover editor, I will be able to modify the order and display. First, I'm going to remove or delete the existing separators. I can then move properties up and down to set the order. Perhaps I want the most relevant information at the top, like the door number and door type. Then door rating, and then width and height. And finally, level, reference, and render. Now I can add separators back in to make the information a little easier to read and group like data together. Also, you can change or edit the label for each property, even if it is just to reduce the amount of text in the flyover, to reduce the size of the overall flyover. I also like to select Hide when blank. Then nothing shows up if the property is not defined. Mainly, I'm simplifying the labels. I can also set a rounding dimension for properties that have numeric values. Once I have all the labels set up, I need to save the information and close the dialog. Now note that the flyover information, when I hover over a door, matches what we just set up. Now let's take a look at creating a new flyover for a catalog type. I'll go back to the Backstage, select Settings, select Building and Flyover Preferences. I'll create a new flyover for steel columns. I select the structural discipline group, select the icon New Flyover for catalog type, select the catalog type column steel. Note that the default properties have been added to the catalog type. Now it is just a question of modifying these properties. Again, I'm going to remove the properties I don't think I need. And then add a few I would like to see, like type ID, and maybe length, which would be the height of the column. I could also add the column location. And then again, I can reorganize the data in order of importance and grouping like data together. First, I'll remove the separators. And then move the type ID and the section name up towards the top, and the material and length. Next. And then even that column location. Then family, part, level, and reference. Then I can add some separators back in to group the like items together. Save this one. And now when I hover over a steel column, I not only see the section name, but also the type ID, the grid location, and the height or length of the column. So with a little setup, you can get the flyovers to display exactly the information you need for each item type in OpenBuildings Designer.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you want to see more such series, consider subscribing to our channel. Thank you, and see you next time.